always push yourself to want to be better, and not just for yourself, but for everybody around you. You know, there's going to be times where you're going to fail, and there's times when you're going to be successful. But I think if you take the losses, you learn from them, take the wins, and you grow from them, I think that as an individual, if you continue to evolve, the people that you surround yourself with, and just the endless possibilities that you can do in your life will be incredible.
It's the Health in the Real World podcast. It's time to start the show with Chris Janke as your host. Here to give you everything that you need when it comes to fitness strategies. We keep it simple and easy. It's your roadmap to get healthy. You don't need equipment and you don't need a gym. Just the right strategies to get you fit and trim.
Welcome to Health in the Real World. We are here today with Jocelyn Gebhardt. Jocelyn, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So you are a trainer. You've been a trainer for a few years now. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into health and fitness originally.
Yeah, so I was a college athlete. I played Division II lacrosse, and once I graduated college, I knew I wanted to stay in shape, right? Like once you're an athlete, you're always an athlete. So I wanted to figure out how to make that work without the routine in the schedule. Like in college, when you're an athlete, it's like you wake up at 6 a.m., you go to practice, you go to class, you go to study hall, you go to the weight room. And I was like, well, now I don't have that structure, so I've got to do this on my own.
Right.
So there were a few years where I was just kind of like playing around. I would go for runs, and I would still strength train a bit. And about 5 years ago, I was like, all right, I enjoy this. It's a passion of mine. So that's when I went and started to study to get certified, and took the exam. And then about two and a half years ago, I launched my own personal training business. So I train here just private in DC, and I've got some online clients as well throughout the country, and I just find such enjoyment helping people. Like it's just this, I feel like if you're not a trainer, you can't really, other people can obviously find enjoyment helping people in other capacities, but when you're a trainer, it's different. It's like you're helping people find the best version of themselves, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, and it's an all-encompassing, like, yeah, they may say I want to lose 20 pounds, but as you go through that journey with them, you become their therapist every session, and they're telling you things that like they wouldn't tell other people. So it's a really rewarding job. Like I enjoy getting up at 4:30 in the morning and going to train clients. Like most people, that would be like, what? Like you get up at what time? And I'm like, I love it. So that's where I'm at. Yeah. And I can't see myself never not training. It's just been such a huge part of my life. And just seeing people achieve the goals that they set is like the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, I like to say that your health and fitness goal is your number one goal. You might have 5 goals, maybe a health goal, maybe a financial goal, a family goal, relationship goal.
Right.
But the health goal is number one. And,
right.
Because to take your own energy, the health that you achieve and to take that energy into the other goals is really powerful. So you're right. We are helping people with their number one goal. And I truly believe that if you can achieve your health and fitness goal, that will create the momentum for everything else. Absolutely.
Right. Because you can't if you're not a healthy individual, if you're not doing it for yourself, like I always tell people, you've got to want to help yourself first before you can help anybody else. Yeah. So if you're not happy with yourself, again, physically, mentally, emotionally, then you're not able to help other people and do the things that you want to do. So it's got to come from internally first to be able to help the external.
Right. So what do you tell that person who maybe they acknowledge that they haven't been healthy, they haven't been fit, they haven't been putting themselves first, but they want to achieve that goal, and they come to you. What's the first thing you tell them that they probably need to start doing?
So I try to keep it very simple because I feel like people make it way more complicated at the beginning than it really needs to be, right? Like these people that come to you they don't know what to do. Like they're relying on you, they're putting their trust in you. So I keep it very, very basic, and I say, you just have to start. Like whatever that means to you, whether that's, all right, let's start training this one session and then we go from there, or whether that's, okay, I'm going to start and go for a 10-minute walk. Like just start, because once you start and you start to see the results and you start to move and you start to be like, well, I feel great after that walk. Like maybe tomorrow I'll do a 20-minute walk. You just have to start. But it's so easy for us to find, especially nowadays, excuses to not do something, right? Life happened, or oh, this came up. So as long as you start today, that's all you need to focus on. From there, then we'll start building off of that. But until you start, you're not going to be able to do much. So
right, absolutely.
Simple, you know, like people, you can't make it complicated for people, and you can't overwhelm them, because then they're like, this is too much. I can't do this. So I try to keep it very,
very simple, very doable. The analogy I like to use is like getting on a bicycle, right? Like, you know, you don't just get on a bike and try to find balance until you start moving forward. So it's like move forward first, and then that forward momentum will give you feedback if you need to move left or right, or if you're good. But first you have to just go. And then you're going slow, and then, okay, now I'm balanced slow, and now I can go faster. And now I balance again, now I can go faster. But if you expect to balance just like at a standstill, you're just going to fall right over, right? So that's like the person who's like, I'm waiting for all green lights before I start going. It's like, that's not going to happen, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a great analogy.
I give you permission to use that. Go for it.
Cool.
So what about, so you've been doing this a few years. I'm sure you've had clients who have achieved a little bit of success, and then maybe a few months or maybe a year or two down the line, they, you know, the saying, they fall off the wagon. They either lose their motivation, or maybe they are doing a lot of things right, but their results have kind of slowed. What do you tell that person at that point?
You know, I try not to, I've never been that trainer to yell at people in a session. I've never been that, like, I'm gonna beat you down until you feel like you can't do this anymore. I've always been a very understanding trainer, and sometimes I think my clients are almost taken aback by that. Because they're like, whoa, I feel like you should be way more upset than you are. I'm like, no. like I've had clients that have texted me on a Monday morning, and they're like, this weekend, I lost all control. I ate terrible. I drank. I did this. I did that. And I'm like, number one, did you have fun doing it? Like, and number two, don't worry about what already happens, right? So like when people fall off the wagon, I say, all right, that happened. Like, we're not going to look backwards. Let's fix it. So let's get back on. Let's start to do the things that we started to do at the beginning, whether that's eating healthy or exercising again, or let's set another schedule. And again, I think it's just keeping it very simple. Like, you can't beat yourself up on things that have happened, right? Like, things are going to come up. It's hard to stick to a routine. I mean, for anybody, it's hard for me. Sometimes I'm like, there's weeks that I'm like, I don't want to do anything this week. But I know if I don't, I'm not going to feel great. So I always try to remind them, like, remember what it felt like when you first started. And then once you got almost like, I don't want to use the term addicted, but once you had that feeling of like, so this is what it feels like to be active and to eat healthy. Remember that, because that's where you need to go when you fall off. It's like,
Yeah.
I've been there before, I fixed it, I can do it again.
Right.
And I think when you keep it that simple, then they're like, okay, all right. You just have to instill a little bit of confidence in them, because when people fall off, it's like their whole life falls. You know, like everything's crumbling around them.
Yeah.
Like don't beat yourself up. It's not worth it.
Yeah, that's key. Yeah, forget about, you did it. It is what it is. Let's move on, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So where do you personally struggle with your health and fitness, and what are some strategies that you've used? I think this has been a really cool question, because I think, we're trying to get past that, maybe that stereotype that trainers have it all figured out or something like that. And you were even an athlete at the college level. But I'm sure there are things where you're like, man, I don't know why I keep doing this, but not only what you struggle with, but also what are some strategies that have worked for you in the past?
Yeah. And it's funny that you asked this, because you had Dr. Parker on previously, and him and I had conversations about this. So,
nice.
And him and I had related to this, because like I said, in college, it's like when you're on that routine of like, you practice 2 hours in the morning, then afterwards you go to in the afternoon, you go to the weight room for an hour, then you have another 2-hour practice, then you've got study hall. So like in a given day, I'd be running around being active for 4+ hours.
It's a full-time job, right? Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Like it was ingrained in my head, 5 or 6 days a week, I was going to work out for at least 3 hours every day. And that, like, I struggle, and I still struggle with that. It's like, I still feel like I need to work out for 2 hours. And that's not beneficial for you. Like they say, after 45 minutes to an hour, it's not really benefiting you. So that's where I struggle, is like overtraining, because I also think like I've got to work out 6 or 7 days a week, and I don't. Like, I feel like in the past year, that's really clicked for me. It's like, take 2 days off. You don't, like, I'm not training to be a college athlete anymore. I'm just training to be healthy. So, and it's just like, I talk myself through it, right? Like, I've got to remind myself that I am healthy. As long as I move every day, whether that's a 30-minute walk, a 5-mile run, a 45-minute strength training session, whatever it is, as long as I move my body, I'm fine. And I think it's just like talking myself through that. And I think that everybody needs that, because it's hard. Health and fitness it's hard to stay on it for a long time.
Yeah. I think that's interesting that you mentioned, you talk about your experience in college athletics, and it just kind of clicked as you were talking that the goal of your workouts when you were in college was not health, right?
Right.
It was get you in shape for lacrosse.
Yes.
It was get you up to this point so you can play in this game and hopefully win these games.
Yes.
For your team.
Yes.
And it's kind of evidence too that, health is not the goal, because there's always injuries in sports, and it's, not that the coach wants you to get injured, but it's kind of like sort of a price you pay, right?
Right.
Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, if your true goal is health, injury is such a small risk, because you're not ever, trying to push so hard that you're going to risk that injury. Right. Unless you go into some class and your ego is this big and you want to be the best in the class, right? All that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that is a really important distinction that you made. So you're almost like this also reminded me of like, when a soldier is in battle and then they leave and they're back home, and it's like they have that trouble adjusting to peacetime, right? And because it's so different, right? So, and I grew up, I haven't been a soldier, but I grew up playing sports like you, and it's just like tunnel vision, right? It's like, that's all you care about. You're so dialed in with your nutrition, with your workouts. You never miss. Like Christmas morning, my family's all right, time to open presents. I'm like, I got to go run first,
Sure. For sure. I mean, it's like, that is what is ingrained in your head, for
Yep.
year after year after year. And it's hard to break that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is.
Hard
Yeah.
to like chill out.
Well, that's good that you acknowledged it, and you see the difference, right, between that really intense sports, right, sports
Yeah.
fitness versus like, let's just be healthy and fit. And probably
Right.
most of your clients who come to you are more like average people, just want to stay healthy, stay fit, right, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So
And if you
Jocelyn,
want to do it for the long run, it's like you can't, if you continue to beat yourself up, you're not going to be able to sustain that. So it's
Right.
like, just take care of your body. That's all
Right.
you need.
I mean, there's a reason why most professional athletes will retire, you know, in their late 20s, early 30s, right? If you see a 35-year-old professional athlete, they're old, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you get beat up and you're done. Yeah. Yeah. So Jocelyn, I want to go really big picture now. So you've been asked by, let's say, a university to give a speech at their graduation.
Okay.
So you're going to be talking to 21, 22-year-olds about a bigger picture thing. So not necessarily health fitness, but more like life strategies, goal setting, whatever direction you want to go with this. What kind of things would you talk to those graduates about?
Oh man, I wish somebody would have told me this. I would tell them to never stop learning and never stop evolving as an individual. I think that oftentimes I think that this clicked kind of a few years, probably most recent in the past like 2 to 3 years for me, is just because you graduate and you're not necessarily studying anything does not mean that you stop learning. Like, always push yourself to want to be better, and not just for yourself, but for everybody around you. You know, there's going to be times where you're going to fail, and there's times when you're going to be successful. But I think if you take the losses, you learn from them, take the wins, and you grow from them, I think that as an individual, if you continue to evolve, the people that you surround yourself with, and just the endless possibilities that you can do in your life will be incredible. And I think that if you're always a student, whether, like I said, whether or not you're specifically studying for something or not, I think that will really make you go far, whatever that means for you, whatever field that is, whatever passion that is, but never stop learning and never stop evolving as an individual. I think that is so important.
Jocelyn Gebhardt, thank you so much for joining me today. Tell everybody how to get a hold of you, what kind of projects you're up to, what you're doing, your website, social media, all that stuff.
Yeah, so my business name is All In with Jocelyn. So you can find me on Instagram, and that's my website as well as www.allinwithjocelyn.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't have Twitter, Facebook, so but that's where you can find me. And to all my local DC people, I'm sure I'll run into you at some point. So.
Sounds good. Jocelyn, thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Health in the Real World Show. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below. Visit mycorebalance.com to learn more.